Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, the Pink Aviatrix. Subscribe if you haven't already, like this video because it's a likable video, and share it because I know it will help someone. Alright guys, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about the best study tips for pilots, right? And it doesn't matter what level of flight training or pilot study or you are at, this will be helpful to you. So the first thing I would say when you're trying to figure out how to study is that you need to have a study space, a quiet space that's free of distractions. Put your phones on silent and just focus on working. Whether that's gonna be in your bedroom, by a table, or at the dining table, or in a library, or by the poolside. You need somewhere that's quiet and conducive to working. But if you're somebody who likes noise or likes music when you're studying, go for that and do what works for you. But yeah, find a study space, like a designated area where you do your studies. The next thing is that you need to know your strong areas and your weak areas. And that will help you to determine where you need to put the most effort and where you can kind of gloss over. But your strong areas are going to help boost your confidence because you know how to do it, and you can also help somebody. But you need to know your weak areas so you know how much effort to put where. The next thing I would recommend as the best study tip for pilots is to find a study partner or a study group, right? And you need to find people who balance you out. So you need to find someone who is strong where you are weak, and also seek out people who are weak where you are strong, because you can help them, and being able to help somebody else or teach somebody else is also a good way for you to learn, because if you can teach it, that means you really know it and you'll be able to apply it when you need it. But yeah, finding a study partner who balance you is like you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and everybody helps each other and grows together. The next thing I would suggest for your study tips is to know your study style, right? Whether you are a reader, listener, writer, talker, you use flashcards, you need videos, you need to get hands-on with the aircraft, know your study style, right? And if you're somebody who doesn't like reading, newsflash, aviation, flight training, air traffic control, maintenance, any of it, you need to be someone who reads, because you have to read, you have to absorb the information in some way, right? So you have to figure out what works for you, right? And I am someone who I need to be able to see the information, I need to write it out. So after I've read a lot, then I need a big whiteboard. I'll insert some pictures of what I used to do when I was at flight school, but I need to write out everything that's in my brain. I need to get it out there, see it on the board, and just talk it through, right? So figure out your study style and what works for you. And you've been in school before flight school, right? If you're at flight school, you must have been to some form of school before. So take it back to when you were learning, whatever it was at that time, and see what worked for you then, and try to apply it to flight school. And if it doesn't work, try something else, but know your study style. And as I mentioned before, teaching someone else is a good way to determine and test your knowledge on what it is that you've studied, because if you understand it for yourself and you can teach it to somebody else, that means you really know what it is. You know what time it is. So yeah, see if you can teach somebody else as well. But verify anything that you're teaching somebody with a CFI, because you don't want to understand something the wrong way and then corrupt somebody else's knowledge base as well. Right, so the next thing that you want to do is to make a schedule for your studies. Don't just haphazardly study, because that's not going to be effective, right? Make a schedule for it, have a time set out where you study, and also in that schedule, scheduling breaks. And if you watch my video where I talked about practical advice for pilots before you start flight training, I mentioned studying and taking breaks, right? Because breaks are important, because you don't want to overload yourself. So something I recommend is that if you went to flight school in the day, and you get home, don't immediately start studying. At least take an hour or two to yourself to eat, drink some water, refresh yourself, to have a shower, to work out, to take a nap if you need it, right, before you dive straight into the studies, because that can kind of get overwhelming. And also, while you're studying, don't just study for 4 hours straight unless that's something that works for you. Scheduling breaks within your actual study time, right? So take a 15-minute break to walk around, get up, stretch, do some deep breathing, get a snack, because yeah, we hungry over here, we gotta eat. And personally, I can't study on an empty stomach. But also, you don't want to eat too much, because we ain't trying to get an itis. So don't eat too much so that you don't feel sleepy while you're studying. But also have snacks and water on hand, maybe some tea, because we love tea over here. Take a sip, right? But focus on the studies. And as I said, breaks are important. And then on that note, let me take a break because I've been talking for 4 minutes. Hold up. Yeah, because I remember when I was going through air traffic control school and flight school, I needed to take a break. I couldn't just go straight into my studies, even though some people can do that. You want to get it out of the way right away. But personally, I need to take a nap at least and eat some food before I sit down to start studying, and eat food throughout. So yeah, good snacks are like nuts and granola bars, things like that, maybe some fruit. That's good for you to have. Now, the next tip I have for you, the next study tip, the next study guide, is to make your own notes, right? If you're in ground school, you might have a lecturer that's talking to you and you're making notes in their words. But then when you go back to read your notes, make your own notes and see if you understand it for yourself. So read what you've written, and also write something, like try to interpret it your own way and make your own notes and like formulate your own answers, and also verify that with your CFI. But putting it in your own words is a good way for you to remember it, because they're your own words, right? So just make sure that whatever it is that you understand from what was taught is what was actually being conveyed, and what the theories and the concepts are. Swatting is good for certain topics, but certain topics you actually have to understand what they mean and how they affect your aircraft and how they affect you, right? So not everything you can SWAT. So yeah, you need to actually see if you can understand the information for yourself in your own words. And that also applies for each time you fly as well. As I mentioned in previous videos, when I fly tag along flights with pilots, even if I'm not the PIC, I always make notes, things I learned from how somebody else flies. And if it's an aircraft I've never flown before, you learn something new and you make your notes, right? But as it relates to your flying lessons, your instructor should do a debrief with you, right? And they would make notes like on your student profile, on the system, on the school's system, but also make your own notes, right? I used to keep notes on my phone of everything that was discussed in the debrief, so that I can personally review it and be better at this particular area the next time I go to fly. And also, it's a good way for you to track your own progress as well, right? To see if you're actually improving on what was taught before. Right, so make your own notes, make notes in your own words, because it's helpful. And also, if your CFI is explaining something to you and you're not able to understand, and a good CFI would do this as well, recommend another CFI talk to you, or somebody else, maybe another student that they have who actually grasp the concept, right? Have someone else explain it to you, because maybe it is that your CFI is not getting it through to you the way you need to receive it, right? So have somebody else explain it to you and see if that could help as well. The next thing that I would suggest is that you join a club or a forum or some form of platform where you have access to other pilots who are basically going through the same things that you are, right? Because that way you could discuss topics and learn from each other, right? But take everything with a grain of salt and just verify anything that you hear or see or learn from a forum or talking to other pilots with your certified flight instructor, right? Because you don't want to absorb some other information that's incorrect and that affects your overall performance. But having a community of pilots is good, because you get to discuss topics and see other perspectives on what you've been learning. And I mentioned joining a club in my video where I talked about should you still become a pilot in this pandemic. So if you haven't seen that video already, go ahead and click the link in the iCards and watch that video and like it. And yeah, if you're getting good value from this video, make sure to like it as well and share it with someone. So the next thing I would recommend, in addition to getting into a community of pilots, is watching videos, right? There's a lot of information online, and as I said before, take everything with a grain of salt and verify anything that's contradicting with your CFI, because information is out there, it's available, and as I said before, it can help you to see things differently and maybe even learn something that you are having a difficulty learning on your own or with your CFI. So watch videos online, enroll in an online course, because that can help you to also test your knowledge, which brings me to my next point, which is to find some way to test your knowledge, whether that's by teaching someone else or doing some online practice quiz or doing the practice test for the FAA written exam. I know in my case, for example, at the flight school I attended, you actually had to do some practice tests before you were allowed to take the actual FAA written exam, right? And that ensures your readiness for the written exam, so that when you go to do the written exam, you just, sail through. Right? So find some way to test your knowledge of what you've been learning, because you don't want to be just reading and internalizing, and then when you go to do the FAA test, you don't get a good score, right? So you need to find some way to test your knowledge before you actually, do your written exam. So do some practice tests and test your knowledge. All right, so I can't believe we've gotten this far in this video and I haven't mentioned the number one thing that they tell student pilots. What's that, guys? Leave in the comments below. Chair fly, chair fly, chair fly, right? And I have a separate video on chair flying, and shout out to my CFI friend Joanne for this idea to make a chair flying video. So that will be coming up next. But chair fly, guys, and I feel like people always talk about chair flying but don't really explain how to do it, so that will be coming up next. But chair flying is important because it helps your muscle memory. And let me tell you something about muscle memory. As a dancer, I used to rehearse certain choreography over and over and over again. And then by the time we come to perform it, it's like automatic, it's second nature to you. And the same thing with strength training and flexibility, all of that. We do it over and over again. So I'll be doing my plays over and over again, my turns over and over again, right? And it's the same thing with your flight training. Going through the motions of actually flying the airplane, even when you're not flying the airplane, helps the lesson, or helps the maneuvers, and helps the processes to become a part of you. Like, you internalize it and your brain and your body remembers it and helps you when you need this information again, right? And shout out to my cousin for this cockpit poster, because I've been using this to get back into the groove of things. So yeah, this is helpful because I have the actual cockpit in front of me and I have my checklist as well. So I'll be using this to go through the motions, right? And it's important for your muscle memory, because even though you have your checklist, it's important to be able to visualize everything that you're doing and have some form of memory of it, even though you're going to be checking off everything on your checklist as you do your pre-flight or as you go through your flight. By the time you actually get to the airplane, you already know what you're doing. So your brain is basically preempting you with everything that you're supposed to do, and you're verifying it with your checklist. And in addition to chair flying, I've mentioned before walk flying. I don't know if everybody else does that, but that was my thing to, learn the traffic pattern. I used to literally go into the parking lot and walk the traffic pattern and call out everything that I would do in the traffic pattern, right? And in addition to chair flying and walk flying, I would include sim time. So your instructor might actually recommend some sim time for you, because if you're having challenges learning a certain maneuver, sim time is cheaper than air time, right? And it's safer too, because you don't have the added pressure of, oh my gosh, I'm trying to fly an airplane, which is dangerous, inherently. You're just in a simulator and you're simulating everything that you're doing while still learning exactly how to do it. So by the time you get to the airplane, you're ahead of where you would have been if you just went straight to the airplane, right? And when I was flight training, I was having challenges with my landings and my sight picture and all of that. And we did some sim time, and after that, landings on point, right? So get you some sim time because it's cheap time, right? All right, and the next thing I would recommend as a study tip for pilots is to make it fun, because hey, you learning something that you actually like to do is hard. Like, I mean, it's hard and you gotta read a lot, study a lot, know a lot, but it's fun at the end of the day, and you're doing it because you love it, right? So why not make the study time fun as well, right? Use mnemonics, use song references, movie references, game references. If there's something else that you like, relate it to aviation or relate it to your flight training, and that will help to make it fun and actually help you to remember what it is you're studying, right? And we know the top phrase in aviation is aviate, navigate, communicate. And Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince, has a song where he says like stimulate, communicate, something, I forget what it is, but I was like aviate, navigate, communicate, right? And that helped me to remember that in that order. You fly the plane first, you know where you're going, and then you tell ATC. And as somebody who is in air traffic control, I mean, it can kind of be hard being on the other side of the fence as well, but you're in the airplane, you fly that baby, okay? Fly that baby, okay? Make your own songs as well, because I remember when I was going through my air traffic controller course, yeah, I kind of made some music. Don't laugh, but I'll insert a clip right here. But yeah, the whole idea is to make your studies fun, because it can be stressful and you want to keep your energy right? You don't want to stress out yourself too much, so make it fun, all right? So I made my own lyrics. Don't laugh at me, but yeah, check it out, guys. Billa vibe, look here. I'm about to be done with these notes. I'm gonna go to school tomorrow. We gonna take a vote. Who's gonna get the highest scores? We already know it's Juliet Hotel, and then next in line, Alpha Lima, she backtracking the runway. Alpha Charlie, she's clear for takeoff today. Uniform Mike, Bravo Papa, Tango Foxtrot. We all doing it till the end of the month. Another study tip that I have for you is to highlight your books, bookmark your books, and tab off your books, especially the far aim. Listen, tab that baby, because you need to know the things them there. You need to be able to find the information quickly. So tab off the things that are important to you, and also use your highlighters, use your pencils. If you don't want to damage your books, tabbing is the perfect way. But yeah, definitely tab, highlight, and mark. Okay guys, I hope that helps you, and I'll show you my far aim. Listen, tab that baby. I think you can actually buy a tabbed far aim, but it's easy enough to tab it off the sections that apply to you. But yeah, tab your far aim, guys. So if it is that you're a pilot of any level, leave in the comment section below some study tips that were helpful for you. And if you're not a pilot and you're watching this video, thank you so much for your support. But leave in the comment section below some general study tips that you have had, which I'm sure they could apply to aviation as well. And these tips that I have left here can cross apply to different fields as well. So thanks so much for watching, and watch the next video that's coming up on your screen right now. And don't forget to subscribe. All right, guys, thanks so much, and see you in the next video. It's gonna be a likeable video. To know your study style, right? Right, and I'll insert some pictures of what I used to do on some water to eat and drink, right? And I'm not talking about as it relates to you flying for your on what you've been learning, because even though you have your checklist as a memory item, even though you have your checklist, right? We're human and you can forget things. What the freak may I say? Because chair flying helps your muscle memory and structure. you fly